Prepare for the perfect strike and then obliterate your opponents with your immense strength and speed. Join me in this episode of Battle Guides as we feature Shekhtur Lenmorre, the Cursed Heroine. Schecter wants to stick close to opponents and pressure them with her high numbers. Her tokens and many of her effects make her an excellent brawler. She uses these to hone in on her opponents and then send onslaughts of deadly attacks their way, stunning them out of most of their attacks. However, Schecter is very token reliant, and with a unique ability such as hers, it's easy to carelessly spend herself out of tokens. Aside from that, she has a problem bridging the gap between attacks, as only one of her cards lets her advance before activating. As such, she'll have a problem against agile characters who can easily move out of her effective melee range. Schecter's unique ability is the Infernal Claw. Schecter begins a game with 3 Malice tokens and gains 1 for each point of damage she deals to opponents, up to a maximum of 5. She may then ante any number of these tokens in a single beat to gain priority +1 each. This is where most of Schecter's speed comes from. She can turn strikes into devastating dash beaters. This, in conjunction with her styles, allow her to keep constant pressure on her opponents, stripping them even of the comfort of their own dashes. Her unique ability is an excellent indicator of momentum in a game, and unlike most token-reliant characters, Schecter's anteing actually leads to her getting even more tokens. As such, it's often the case that Schecter has to spend tokens to gain them back. That being said, Schecter can constantly ante 3 or 4 tokens every beat, provided that she hits her opponents. However, this same mechanic spells doom for most inexperienced Schecters, as one miscalculation can leave her gasping for more tokens. Schecter is a high-risk, high-reward character that can either be the best or worst depending on the situation. She needs to maximize her gains while minimizing her risks in order to be effective. As such, I think that she is less of a rushdown character as she is a charge character. Rather than spend every single turn hitting opponents, Schecter would much rather alternate between preparation and striking to make every hit count, as she isn't that strong when it comes to power. Spiral is Schecter's only way of advancing before an attack, as most of her other movement effects occur after the attack phase. Statistically, this card is weak, providing priority -1 and up to power -3 depending on how many spaces she advances. It is this effect that makes this card easily pairable with Strike, as Strike can handle the priority penalty as well as the power penalty because it has the highest power among all bases in the game. However, when playing defensively, Schecter can also pair Spiral with Dash for a full board gap closer that's almost always safe. First we had Cadenza's Clockwork, then Eligor's Marshal, and now we have Schecter's combination. I mean, just the idea of a technically free +4 power on a card without any penalties is scary enough. Give it to a character who can put that on attacks that have 10 priority and you'll wet your pants. Combination is quite the fearsome attack, letting Schecter deal 6 damage while still beating dashes. However, the range restriction makes this card hard to pair with shots and bursts. As such, I suggest pairing it with Grasps if you want to beat dashes, Drives if you want to beat bursts, and Strike to deal tons of damage. Jugular turns almost any attack into a superior grasp. It is statistically Schecter's strongest card, and it lets her beat dashes more effectively, requiring less tokens to do so. It even makes her safe against reactive opponents because of its on-hit effect. Defensively, Schecter can pair this up with a dash to regain some tokens after she miscalculates and loses all of them. Next up is Reaver. I classify this card as a corner trap, allowing Schecter to push the opponent into the corner while also preventing retaliation from said opponent. Schecter truly shines in the corner as most of her attacks, though not mobile, can stuff opponents when they can't move out of her range. This card lets Schecter get to that point and is very useful in that regard. Stat-wise, this card just gives Schecter some much needed range, and as such, I suggest pairing it with Drives and Grasps to make good use of its facets. And last but not the least is unleashed. When I said that Schecter would much rather alternate between striking and preparing, I mostly said it because of this card. In terms of stats, it's not that strong, giving only some range and negative power. As such, it's not so much a big hit style as it is a preparation style to prepare for said big hit. When used correctly, this card can bring you from no tokens to 5 tokens in a single beat. And as with many of her other styles, this style also goes well with dash, allowing her to gain tokens and power for the next beat while still being safe. Schecter's unique base lends itself to her combo stringing nature, but instead of continuing combos, it's meant to end combos. For a fast character, Brand has low priority, being a very below average 2. As such, you'll need to ante some Malice tokens for it to connect. However, once it does connect, Malice almost always guarantees that your opponent will not be able to retaliate because it ignores Stun Guard. And since connecting with an attack usually means Schecter deals damage, she'll have enough tokens to spend for its after activating effect, effectively increasing the life gap further. Schecter's Overdrive finishers are Soul Breaker and Coffin Nails. They're technically the same attack and are only distinguished by what Schecter needs to shut down. Coffin Nails prevents people from gaining Soak and Stun Guard, making them effective against Juggernauts like Eligor and Cadenza. Soul Breaker, on the other hand, prevents people from anteing. As such, it's better used against people who rely mostly on their anti-stats and anti-effects. Regardless of which of these two she's using, Schecter should anti-Malice tokens to them, as they only have 3 priority. Beware, they also only have 3 power, and since their effects only happen on damage, beware of people who have Soak. As with most offensive characters, I do suggest using her Overdrive finish above Cancel and Pulse. However, there are some situations wherein Cancel and Pulse will be more effective than using either of her Overdrive finishers. However, the proper situations for these are better left for your own discovery. As I said in the previous videos, Schecter can make use of the anti-block. Quite frankly, she can make use of multiple variations of it. One variation is called the delay anti. Now let's say Schecter is fighting against Hikaru, and Schecter antes 2 of her Malice tokens to gain priority +2. Hikaru, knowing that his attack is relatively fast, antes his Wind token to keep up. However, Schecter is not limited to 2 antes a turn and can ante as many times as she wants. So she antes the rest of her tokens, giving her +5 priority instead of the +2 that she was telegraphing earlier, effectively making Hikaru waste his Wind token. She can make use of the standard variation in 2 ways. The first is one we're all familiar with, anteing tokens to a dash. As anteing Malice tokens usually tells opponents that you'll be offensive this turn, they won't see the dash coming. On the other hand, the other variation involves anteing it to a slow attack like Burst or Shot. This telegraphs to opponents that your base is naturally fast already and you don't need as much Malice tokens. However, we both know that that's not the case. And as with most characters, Schecter has some bread and butter combos. Let's start off with the one that will make your jaws drop. Combination Brand. On its own, it's really average, only having 5 power and 2 priority. But ante all of your Malice tokens onto it, and it turns into a living nightmare. Played right, this attack can make your opponent lose 9 life, while letting Schecter regain 2, while ignoring Stun Guard and Soak. Now if that didn't make you cry, I don't know what will. Combination Drive is a great way to deal tons of damage while still getting tokens back to continue your onslaught. Drive's ability to advance before attacking makes up for Combination's range limitations. At its best, this attack is range 1, power 7, priority 9, which means it clashes most vanilla dashes. If your opponent's dash or burst are in this card, by all means, play this attack pair. Deal 7 damage for free. And finally, we have dash. I'm not kidding, that's the combo, it's dash. Unlike most offensive characters, Schecter actually makes use of dash quite well, not only to dodge her opponent's attacks, but also to put opponents off her rhythm. Once the opponent starts getting and predicting when and where you ante tokens, that's when you lose. As such, putting a random dash in there will throw him off your scent. Like mentioned before, dash works with almost all of her styles, including Jugular, Unleashed, and even Spiral. This means that Schecter can effectively use any of the 3 styles with dash in order to prepare for the next beat, be it Spiral to close the gap, Unleashed to prepare for a big strike, or Jugular to make back lost ground. And that's pretty much most of the things you guys need to know about Shekhtur Lenmorre, the Cursed Heroine. And if you all planned on bringing our Cursed Heroine and her Infernal Claw to the battlefield, here are a few last-minute tips. Number 1. Malice tokens. Unlike Eligor, Schecter has many ways to earn back her tokens. As such, don't be too afraid of anteing a lot. However, be warned, never ante yourself to the point that you no longer have tokens. It's kinda hard to make up for lost ground. Number 2. Combination. Combination is a really powerful attack, and I suggest that you use it whenever you can. However, don't be too predictable as it's easily dashable if you don't use Grasp. And number 3. Using Dash. Don't be afraid to use Dash as Schecter. Even though you won't be dealing any damage, it contributes to your damage potential, as it throws your opponents off your rhythm and allows you to prepare for strikes in the future. I suggest using it as often as you use combination. Just make sure you don't use them in the same beat. And that has been Battle Guides, episode number 2, featuring Shekhtur Lenmorre. I hope all of you learned a few things about our Cursed Heroine and her Infernal Claw. See you again next time, and remember, do not forget your special action.